You got the Cowboys and the Bears tomorrow, 3:25 Central Time, game of the week. What can we expect? Can we expect another shootout? Can we expect another overtime victory? I hope not, man. I hope that it's just time to buckle down. But we'll talk about it right here next on Cowboy Spit.
Here we go! Yeah, here we go! Wait, take
Cowboys. Throws back of the end zone. There's CeeDee
What's going on, everybody? Cowboy C3, Cowboys versus Bears tomorrow afternoon, primetime game of the week. Cowboys coming off of a good offensive performance, but a horrible defensive performance. It's kind of hard to say horrible defensive performance because I think their D tackles and their linebackers, I thought that they played pretty well. Defensive ends still having a hard time putting pressure on the quarterback without blitzing. You don't have that defensive end, the dynamic of Micah Parsons anymore, and these guys are they're struggling a little bit. Sam Williams, I thought, played pretty decent. Donovan Esaraku, he's young, he'll get it down. James Houston continues to play well, and I think that he probably deserves more playing time, but we'll see how that goes tomorrow. Marshawn Nealon, played pretty decent. Not terrible, but not great. But not a guy that's going to provide you with a ton of pressure on the quarterback anyway. He was brought in more of a run-stopping defensive end. So they go out and sign Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney practiced this week. It's looking more and more like he probably will not play tomorrow, but they said it's going to be a game-time decision. As Stephen Jones said, it'll be a game-time decision for him. Jerry was on the radio station here late last week. Well, I think he was on there yesterday, and he said that he's looking for everybody playing. The question that was asked to Brian Schottenheimer, who also did an interview, I think he did his Thursdays, there was a lot of questions about Jaden Blue. Would Jaden Blue get the opportunity to play? And he stayed pretty silent about it. He said that's up to Jaden. Not sure what that means, but there is something that obviously is not happening with Jaden Blue that the team wants to happen. Not sure what that may be. There was some talk earlier, and especially during training camp, that they weren't happy with Jaden Blue's work ethic. They came out, particularly Brian Schottenheimer came out and said that that wasn't true, that they were happy with his work ethic. He came in, he played in the third preseason game and looked pretty explosive and kind of tweaked his ankle a little bit towards the end of it. And we haven't seen him since. Kind of confused about it, but there's something internally that's going on. They're keeping pretty hush mouth. But I think that he provides a spark to the offense that doesn't necessarily need a spark, but a spark is good to have. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's good to have that weapon if you need it, particularly with the way that this defense may cause you to be in shootouts for the remainder of the season. So game time tomorrow, 4:25 Eastern time, 3:25 here. It'll be on Fox. Cowboys are a 1.5 favorite. That number has shifted probably 4 or 5 times within the week. The Bears by a point, Bears by 2 points. Then it was even. Now the Cowboys +5. And the thing that scares me the most down here is this over 50 total points for both teams. Not necessarily interested in seeing another shootout. need to shore some things up before before tomorrow. And the thing about it is that when you go back and look at the Giants game, um, I don't think it was a player thing. I think it was a scheme thing. And I made a comment after the game against the Giants that the Cowboys have a lot of man-to-man corners. They have a lot of cover one corners. And when you try to put them in zones, it doesn't generally work well. Dan Quinn learned that early. He learned that real early. And I refuse to believe that Matt Eberflus, who's had a top 10 defense for years and years, even when Chicago was terrible offensively, their defense was still always pretty good. I refuse to believe that he just all of a sudden showed up in Dallas and doesn't know how to coach a defense. But there are some things with these Cowboy corners, Trayvon Diggs, Kyer Elam. These guys are man-to-man corners. That's what they do. And you have to be extremely disciplined to play any kind of zone defense. And not saying that they're not disciplined football players, but they are accustomed to this man is right in front of me and I'm going to stay with that man. Go back and look at the Giants tape and break it down. A lot of times the slot receiver was the one that went deep on the outside on your outside corners and beat them deep because they're paying attention to the man in front of them. And you can't do that. The Bears do not have a wide receiver that is necessarily better than Malik Neighbors. I don't think that there are very, very many receivers that are better than Malik Neighbors in the National Football League. But what they do have is I believe they have a better tandem of receivers than the New York Giants have. And that poses a problem. It can pose a problem. Offensively, the Bears, Caleb Williams, of course, is their leading passer, 417 yards passing. He's done 3 touchdowns and an interception. DeAndre Swift is their leading running back, 116 yards rushing. Rome Odunze is their leading receiver, 165 yards, 3 touchdowns. And, the rest of the stats down there defensively. Interesting thing about it is that the Cowboys only have 1 sack this season. That sack was by the guy that came over in the Michael Parsons trade, Kenneth Clark. Kenneth Murray Jr. is the leading tackler, and Trey Edmonds is their leading tackler at with 14 tackles. They have a pretty decent football team. They're not bad. The one thing that they don't do well is they do not have consistency on the offensive side of the ball, and that particularly comes from their quarterback spot. If you watch the Chicago Bears play the first game of the season against Minnesota in the first half, Caleb Williams was lights out. He looked fantastic. And since then, especially going from the game last week against Detroit, he looked bad. He looked flat out bad. But Ben Johnson's offense has a tendency to look bad. Chicago, their offense doesn't look that great right now. When he first got to Detroit, the offense didn't look that great until they started getting their stride. And once they caught their stride, they looked pretty good. My hope is that they don't catch their stride tomorrow against the Cowboys. Offensively, they're going to look like this. Caleb Williams will be the quarterback. DeAndre Swift, he's questionable with an ankle injury, but we'll talk about that in a minute. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, and the rest of the offense kind of looks, Cole Kmet will be the tight end, and he's pretty decent. Colston Loveland plays a lot too. Their offensive line will be minus a guy, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Defensively, they're going to be minus their top 2 corners tomorrow, which bodes well for the Cowboys. You will see a familiar face playing at the left corner, Nashawn Wright, former Cowboy. They're decent on defense. They're not terrible, but they will be missing their corners. That kind of plays into the Cowboys' strength with the 2 receivers that the Cowboys now possess. Offensively for the Cowboys, it'll be Dak, Javon Williams, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert playing the slot. Kevontae Turpin is healthy enough to go. The big change will be tomorrow. Brock Hoffman will play center because Cooper Beebe went on the injured reserve list with a bad foot. He had a broken bone in his foot and a mid-ankle sprain. So Brock Hoffman will get the nod tomorrow. And Brock Hoffman is not a major drop from Cooper Beebe. Excuse me, from Beebe. A lot of people thought that he may win that center job last year anyway. But Cooper Beebe came in and did a tremendous job. Just a hard-nosed football player. But Brock Hoffman brings you that nastiness that you need. Like he's super familiar with the team. He's super familiar with playing center. Shouldn't really be a drop-off. Should be, pretty status quo tomorrow for the Cowboy offense. Cowboy defense will pretty much line up the same as it has all season. There is a question mark that is not mentioned on the injury list for the Cowboys. Deron Bland will be out again with the foot injury, so Kyer Elam will be the starting corner on the outside. Kevontae Turpin, he went out last week with a little neck stinger. Yeah, he full participant in practice. He'll be fine. Tyler Guyton with the shoulder, full participant in practice. He'll be fine. He'll play tomorrow. Trayvon Diggs was first listed as an injury, as an illness. It came out today that knee may be giving him problems, and he's listed as questionable for tomorrow. Not really sure. I mean, he's probably questionable for tomorrow because he was chasing down giant receivers too fast last week. But I'm not sure. Trayvon has got to get with the system, get with the program. And I'm hoping that Eberflus puts them more in a man situation this week, just because they're not comfortable playing the zone defense. And that's pretty obvious. The crazy part about it is that from the beginning, we have all talked about, and not just me, I'm talking about, I think everybody's talked about, is that the Cowboys secondary, particularly their safeties, aren't very good in coverage. And playing the zone defense, you're leaving them back in coverage. And that is a big mistake, I believe. And it could pay costly this week. It could. It has the potential to. But in a man defense where you've got everybody locked up man to man and you're just providing help over the top, the Cowboy the Cowboy safeties, Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, they're both pretty good at that. That's what they're good at. Leaving them to cover a zone by themselves, that does not bode well. It just doesn't. And I hope that we learn from that against the Giants, and I hope that we can learn from those mistakes, learn what to do and what not to do, and we can continue moving forward and not make those mistakes again this week. But it does have the potential to be a long afternoon. Another thing that has the potential to be a long afternoon, to make it a long afternoon, is Caleb Williams' ability to run the ball. Very, very good once he gets outside the pocket. Not particularly throwing the ball, but running the ball. And the Cowboys have had a very big problem here lately of keeping quarterbacks contained in the pocket. They did a pretty decent job with Russell Wilson last week, but there were some times that he escaped, and most of the times that he escaped right up the middle. One thing about Jadeveon Clowney is that he does provide an edge. He will set the edge. He sets the tone on the outside. He will not let things get outside of him. But he may not play tomorrow. We'll wait and see. Said it's a game time decision, so we'll have to wait and see if he plays or not. I do believe that they can beat the Chicago Bears. I don't think that that's a question. I think that the 50 points that the spread has between the two teams, hopefully the majority of those 50 points come from the Cowboy offense, especially with both of Chicago's corners being out. And we'll look at the Chicago Bears injury report. Kieran Omijane, it will be out. He is their starting left guard. He's one of their best offensive linemen. He'll be out tomorrow. Linebacker TJ Edwards will be out. Kyler Gordon, Jalen Johnson, and Jalen Jones will all three be out. And those are three starters in their secondary. DeMarco Jackson and DeAndre Swift, Both were questionable. DeAndre Swift was limited all week in practice. DeMarco Jackson did not participate on Thursday, limited on Friday, doubtful that questionable that he'll play. Without DeAndre Swift, I think that the Bears will lean heavily on the pass. And that last week was the Cowboys' weakness. Now, if you get the Caleb Williams that you had against Detroit, you're not overly concerned. But if Caleb Williams comes out like he did the first half against Minnesota, that poses a problem. That poses a problem. He was leaving the pocket. He looked great. He was throwing the ball downfield on the run. He looked fantastic. Hoping you get the Caleb Williams that you saw last week. But he does pose a problem when he does leave the pocket, which brings me to the keys to victory. And the keys to victory, we're missing one thing this week, but I believe that situation may be handled, but we'll see. So my keys to victory are this. Offensively, you got to control the line of scrimmage and establish the run game early. That is always going to be a key for this offense. Your offensive line has played pretty damn good so far this season. Your left tackle, Tyler Guyton, has played pretty good football. He's kept Dak upright for the most part, kept him out of trouble, kept him out of harm's way. Seems to have a little bit of nastiness about him this year, and I like it. I like it a lot. Tyler Smith has just been Tyler Smith all year. Kind of got beat up in the first game a little bit on a couple of plays, and I mean like one or two plays, but for the most part, it's Tyler Smith. He's solid. Tyler Booker has been as advertised so far this season, looked really, really good. There was a play last week where he had a Giants defensive end in the air with one arm. Like he's looked the part. Brock Hoffman will step in and replace Cooper Beebe. I'm not overly concerned about Brock Hoffman as well. Terrence Steele has looked like Terrence Steele before his knee injury at times, and then he's looked like Terrence Steele of the recent past at times as well. But still not terrible. I do believe that the run game has been pretty decent, a lot better than a lot of people expected as of late. And in the first two games, Javonte Williams has provided a spark to the offense that, at the beginning of the season last year, they didn't have this type of run game until the end of the season last year. He's provided it from the beginning. Miles Sanders had he definitely left whatever happened in Philly. He left that in Philly. He came out last week and he looked pretty decent. I just think that I'm looking forward to seeing Jaden Blue behind the offensive line and seeing what he can do. But obviously, Jaden Blue has some stuff that he needs to get right within the organization first before he has an opportunity to play. Whatever that is, I hope it's pretty quick, and I hope that it happens for him. And then third, of course, you need to take advantage of these missing cornerbacks, these missing people in the Chicago secondary. You've got two fantastic receivers. You got a slot receiver, Jalen Tolbert, that really needs to have a big game to gain some confidence. I look forward to seeing what happens tomorrow. Your tight end, Jake Ferguson, has had a pretty decent year so far. I look for that to continue tomorrow as well. I look for the Cowboys to be slightly pass happy tomorrow, especially with the secondary being beat up from Chicago. But I do think that they need to establish the run game early, and I think they need to run the ball often. Tomorrow, defensively, you need to pressure Caleb Williams. You need to make him uncomfortable from the very beginning of the football game. And when you do pressure him, you do not lose containment. You can't lose containment of him. You need to keep him inside the pocket, make him scramble up the middle, and let the defensive tackles and the linebackers make plays. That is key. If you allow him to break containment and get outside and start running around, he'll put the defense in a strain. And the last thing you need is for the secondary to be in some sort of a strain. You need them to be comfortable tomorrow. You need them to play whatever type of defense they're going to play tomorrow, I do hope that they come out of the zone. I hope you see a little bit more man to man tomorrow, because I think that's what the Cowboy corners are more comfortable with. If Bland won't go. If Diggs can't go, Stewart will step in. He'll be your third, your second corner, and you just have to rotate players in and find your third corner tomorrow against the Chicago team that has two very good wide receivers. Wan'Dale Robinson really wasn't on anybody's radar as being a really good receiver in the National Football League, but he's on people's radar now because of the secondary woes that the Cowboys had last Sunday. You cannot allow that to happen again. If there's a 50-point total for points, the Cowboys need to have 40 points, and Bears need to have 10. And the way to do that is to make Caleb Williams uncomfortable, and the secondary to hold up. And you need to keep these speedy wide receivers in front of you. That is absolutely a big key to victory tomorrow. You can't let Rome Odunze or DJ Moore get behind you and let Caleb Williams start lobbing deep balls down the field, and then you have a replay of last week. Not really interested in that whatsoever. With all that being said, my final score prediction tomorrow is the Cowboys 30, Bears 17. I think that they beat the Bears pretty handily. I think the defense shows up and plays better, and I think the Cowboy offense just continues to roll and continues to do the things that they've been doing. Dak has been playing at an ultra high level, and I don't see why he won't continue that tomorrow with a depleted Chicago secondary. But I think you need to establish a run game just to minimize the time that your defense is on the field. I do. Because Bland is already out. Seems like he's closer to playing now than he was last week, of course. But if Diggs is out, you're going to be putting a secondary back there that's pretty junior, right? You got help coming, though. Help is on the way. Siobhan Rivell will be around. They said, around week 8, coming off an ACL injury that he had in college at East Carolina. They drafted him with the knee injury, knowing that he had the knee injury. DeMar Overshown, a lot of talk that he may be back before Thanksgiving. He gives you a boost at linebacker. You just hope that he's close to being the player that he was last year. One thing about Overshown, they said it the year before. He tore the ACL the year before, and he tore the opposite knee last year. One thing that they harp on is his dedication to recovery and rehabilitation. Said that nobody has ever inside the Cowboy walls inside the organization, nobody has ever worked to come back harder than DeMar Overshown from both injuries. It's like a machine. It's like a model. Like, he's hurt, but he is absolutely 100% dedicated to his rehabilitation and getting back on the football field. And I do believe that is the reason why they were so upset with Trayvon Diggs and fined him $750,000, is because that he doesn't have the same dedication to the rehabilitation that DeMar Overshown has. He's come in, he set a tone for rehabilitation. The main part, the main topic behind all this, or the main point behind all this, is, one, you want him to come back because you do need the help on the defensive side of the ball, but you don't want to bring him back too early. You don't want to bring him or Siobhan Rivell back too early, because you don't want them to have some sort of lingering side effect from the injury, and therefore they injure themselves with coming back too early. That's what you want to avoid. But the defense has to hold up in order for them not to rush them back. I do believe that. And it starts, oddly enough, this year. It doesn't start with stopping the run. I believe the defensive tackles this year, Kenny Grant has played phenomenal. Solomon Thomas is just a wrecking machine. He is everywhere. And Jay Toya has played well also. So well that, Mozzie Smith has just been active for the last 2 weeks, and it's a question mark whether he'll even get an opportunity to play again tomorrow. And, that was your first round draft pick 2 years ago. So, you worked really hard to shore up the interior part of your defense, and you did that. But now your exterior, your defense, your secondary, your defensive ends, those guys have been in a real struggle these first 2 weeks of the season. Hopefully, Eberflus, his defensive scheme, like I said, man, the dude has had a top 10 defense, for years. Hopefully they can shore that up and get back to where they need to be, because this week is the Bears, and we all understand that the Bears are not, a big staple mark in the NFL these days. You start part of your gauntlet next week when Green Bay comes to town. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about Green Bay and you got Chicago tomorrow. But after the game tomorrow, we definitely will talk about Green Bay. And they are rolling. Absolutely rolling. Look like they might be the best team in the NFL. We'll see. But got the Bears tomorrow, 3:25. We were seriously considering trying to go play-by-play tomorrow for the game. I don't think that that's going to happen. We'll see. We'll see after the blitz tomorrow morning. But either way, we'll be after the game. Was supposed to do a show this past Wednesday, but your boy Cowboy C3 been a little bit under the weather. Got to have a small procedure done on Monday, but we all right. We'll be fine. You know what I mean? Just minor setbacks, major comebacks. That's how it always goes. But anyway, definitely be on for the blitz tomorrow morning. We'll be back tomorrow after the game for sure. We'll see if we do this play-by-play coverage of the game tomorrow. We got some things that we still need to talk about in order to be able to do that. But we will get this play-by-play done here in the near future, though. That's something that I'm super excited about, because I think I'm better than the announcers that are on TV. But anyway, y'all, that's my show for tonight, man. Tomorrow, Cowboys, Bears, primetime game. Make sure you guys tune in, and then we'll go live right after the game like we always do. All right, y'all. Cowboy C3 watching these Longhorns and play Sam Houston, and Arch Manning finally looks like a damn quarterback tonight, man. He looks good. He looks really good. And they got Florida, I think, not next week, but maybe it's next week. It's either next week or the week after that. And Florida is playing Miami right now, and it's not going very good for Florida. So, college football fans, especially if you're a Longhorns fan, Arch looks pretty good tonight. It is against Sam Houston State. However, against San Jose State and UTEP, he didn't look good in those games. So at least, I mean, he's making quality throws tonight. Quality throws. So maybe the tables are turning. But I tell you what, though, there is a game in a couple of weeks for college football that's coming up, man, and it's kind of scary. That Texas OU game, they ain't kicking OU's ass this year. That ain't happening. That's gonna be a dogfight, and if you're not careful, OU might whoop your ass. So they look really good today against. They play Auburn. Went down late in the fourth quarter and came back, man, and turned on the juice and ended up beating Auburn by double digits. So we'll see. Interesting. College football is starting to take shape, and Oklahoma's good again. Watch out. But anyway, all right, y'all. Cowboy C3. I will definitely see you guys tomorrow on the blitz, and then we'll see you guys right after the Cowboys beat up on these Bears, man. All right, y'all. See y'all soon. Peace.